I have 4 questions here from a Muslim who genuinely seems to actually be interested in an answer or in what atheists would think about this. So yeah, if they're genuine questions, sure, I'll try my best to answer them. Okay, question 1, existence of God. My question is, do atheists think that something can be created out of nothing? I summarized this question, and I hope I did it correctly. What I think you're asking me here is, how do I think the Big Bang happened, or how can I explain it without God? Okay, well, I can't at the moment. At the moment, science doesn't have a consensus on a unified theory of everything. We don't have a wide consensus on that. We're still trying to figure out ways to test the theories that we have so far. But to say that God created the universe doesn't actually answer the question, because the question, it just pushes it back one. The question then becomes, who created God? Or in a sense, what created God? Or how did God come to be? It doesn't matter if you say God created the universe or it was the Big Bang. There's still the question of how did that come to be? So to say that God created everything doesn't answer the question any more than saying we don't know. Question 2, sense of morality and afterlife. What about people who murder others like Saddam and Hitler? Do they just get away with it? You're talking about a sense of justice. Shouldn't there be justice for the righteous and the wicked and stuff like that? What do you think will happen to people who kill and torture others? They just die like everybody else. There's no afterlife. There's no heaven, hell, torture, etc. It's not realistic or sane to assume that that's going to happen. I mean, just because we have a very strong sense of justice doesn't mean that's the way the universe really works. I wouldn't exactly say they got away with it. Let's take Saddam, for instance. He had bodyguards with him all the time. He slept in different places, in different beds. He was constantly worried about, he had food tasters, he was worried about being poisoned, he was worried about being killed, and with good reason, because he killed a lot of people. When you do that, you make enemies. So he lived in constant fear, and at the end, he was hiding in a cave for several years, and when people finally got their hands on him, they hung him. I wouldn't exactly say he got away with anything. Now, let's take Hitler. He cared very deeply about his country, blah, 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 and in the end, he watched it get bombed flat to the ground and spent the last couple of years hiding in a bunker and eventually shot himself. I wouldn't exactly say from his point of view that he got away with it either. And I think you'll find that even though there is no afterlife, no heaven and hell, things do actually tend to work out that way. And I don't want to say it's karma, because I think that the idea of karma is a bit stupid, but it's just common sense. You know, if you go around killing people, then you're going to make enemies. What about the people who've had relatives who have died as a result of these maniacs? Where's the justice for them? Okay, now that's a tough one, because they don't have much justice. Because that's right, the worst that can happen to Saddam and Hitler and people like that is that they die, and the worst that can happen is that they die earlier. Now, for people who've had relatives that have been killed by crazy people, the fact that they would take comfort in the idea that the criminals would burn and be tortured in the most unspeakable ways till the end of time, I wonder what kind of person you are for taking pleasure or taking comfort in that, because that's pretty sick as far as I'm concerned. Question 3, dealing with uncertainty. A friend of mine says that her religion is a bit of everything just to be safe. I'm a big fan of that saying, better safe than sorry. Okay, now my question to you is, how much do you have to believe in God in order to get into heaven? If you don't technically deny the existence of God, are you going to get into heaven? Technically speaking, if you technically say you're an agnostic, or you don't know, or you can't say for sure that God doesn't exist, are you going to get into heaven? I mean, are you going to get in on a technicality, is what I'm saying. How adamantly do you have to believe in God to get into heaven? Which raises the question, if there is a God, what's the most important thing to God? Is it most important that I believe in God? Or is it more important that I am a moral person and conduct myself fairly and justly? So let's take the first for instance. Let's say that the most important thing to God is that I believe in God. Well, where's the justice in that? I mean, if I conduct myself fairly and morally and try to be a good person, be honest, etc., 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 but yet a pedophile who's molested 7 children, who's a priest and goes to confession and confesses his sin every time and asks for forgiveness and sincerely repents, is going to get into heaven, but not me. Especially if God is supposed to be all loving and all caring and all compassionate and all forgiving, then what on earth do I have to fear from God? Even if I'm a horrible person, what do I have to fear from God? Of course he's going to let me in. He's a complete pushover. And if the second thing is correct, that the most important thing to God is that I be moral and be compassionate and caring and just, then it doesn't matter if I believe in him, as long as I try to do those things. So it doesn't matter if I believe in him. Basically, religious people believe that good people go to heaven and bad people go to hell. Now, if you're right and we're wrong, we don't lose much because you just die, right? But if we're right and you're wrong, you lose everything. And my question is, how do atheists deal with this uncertainty? Now, somebody put it very well, and I'm sure I'll credit you. I just can't remember the channel name right now. But you put it very well. You said that threatening an atheist with eternity in hell is a bit like saying to somebody, you'll burn forever in an imaginary place until the end of time, but only after you die. There's not much of a threat there, guys. It's a bit like saying the boogeyman's going to come and get you, or the Easter Bunny's going to come and chop you up into little bits. It's not a threat. It's not something I take seriously because it's so ridiculous. Question 4, getting through difficult situations. I can speak endlessly about the many situations that I've been through that I could do nothing but pray to God. So my question is, what do you do when you go through a difficult situation that you can do absolutely nothing about? Well, I have to say that I've never been in a situation that I can do literally nothing about. There's always something more useful that you can do than pray. Always. Because you don't know you're in an impossible situation until you try to do something about it. So you keep trying, you keep learning, you keep trying to get out of it, even if it does seem like an impossible situation. Because praying doesn't do a damn thing. So anything you do is more productive than praying. If these are honest questions and you really want to know the answers to them, then I would keep checking the channel comments, okay? Because you'll probably get a lot of atheists giving you their view on it.